So the steps behind hacking, your typical hacking campaign. This doesn't have to happen for every single hack out there, but this is pretty much the steps that every penetration tester like myself would do when testing the security of a corporation. So one of the first things that we would do is we have reconnaissance. Reconnaissance is kind of broken down into two different phases. We have passive reconnaissance and active reconnaissance. Passive reconnaissance is just gathering information like you would any other way you're going to be a stalker. You're going to go on Facebook, you're going to go Google an individual's name, you're going to go, what I like to do is I like to go onto Monster or Workopolis and Google a corporation's sort of their IT needs. If I see a listing for a system administrator, I can literally see all the things that they have in their infrastructure. So that's what is known as passive reconnaissance. Google hacking. You can actually request certain queries when you're doing a Google search for PDF files, for TXT files. So Google is a really powerful tool for information gathering. The second phase of reconnaissance is more active reconnaissance. This is where you kind of expose yourself a little bit more, and it's really kind of difficult for certain penetration testers or hackers to do this and do it well. So an example for active would be, let's say I actually submitted a fake resume for this IT system administrator, and I actually walked into the company looking like as if I was going to do an interview. I could be looking at all the employees, I could be scanning their networks, which is a part of the next step. I could be looking at their SSID for the wireless routers. That's more of active reconnaissance. The second step is scanning, like I said. I would utilize ping sweeps, port scanners like Nmap. So I would look at their entire network once I'm connected to it via wireless or hardwired, and I would be able to see what kind of services are they running. What's their server look like? How many nodes do they have? When do their employees usually leave home? These are things that I would sort of jot down. Afterwards, I would actually try to gain access to a system. I would go in and try to, grab someone's computer who's not, as tech savvy, whether it be, any staff member really. And then I would do a pivot. Pivoting means that once you're a part of a network, you just pivot to the next employee. And you kind of jump and jump and jump until you find the administrator account. And then that's when you do privilege escalation, and you own the network. Afterwards, you're going to do maintain access, so your reverse shell. That's when you kind of, no matter what happens, you kind of always have that back door in the network. And then the last step is sort of covering your steps, deleting your log files, and make it seem as if you weren't even there. So the next is the cybercrime market. What's the size? How much is hacking worth now these days? The biggest portion of hacking is in identity theft and credit card fraud, and it currently comes out to about $24 billion a year for stealing credit card information, healthcare information, all of that, and it's devastating the networks right now. The second biggest is corporate hacking, ransomware. CryptoLocker itself raked in about $30 million last year just on ransomware because they were able to target massive corporations and encrypted all of their sensitive data. And the FBI said it themselves. Like they said, if you get hit with ransomware, probably the best thing for you to do is just pay up because you need your data. You need to protect your client's data. If you don't have proper backups, backups are like the best thing to prevent ransomware from spreading, is because you can literally just delete all those encrypted files, fix your patch, and then back up from a later date. If you don't have backups, oh man. Afterwards, we have zero-day market and vulnerability research. Zero-day market is essentially, it's called zero-day because the developer who made the software didn't actually know about the vulnerability when they made it. So that's like me making a website and I don't really know about cross-site scripting or SQL injection. And if someone goes out and they try to fuzz the network themselves, fuzzing just means to do random inputs to find out what kind of exception handling the program sort of outputs. If you look at that, you can actually detect vulnerabilities and make exploits. So if I made an exploit for iOS, the latest version of it, and only I knew about it. I can literally sell that to the FBI, the CIA, hacker groups. People would pay millions of dollars for these zero-day exploits. And then we have other. And some of the things that sort of falls into other are sort of like privileged data trading on the markets. So let's say I hacked into a pharmaceutical company that does online transactions, and I noticed that in their orders on the very top of the URL, increments by 1. If I check that every day, I can literally see whether or not this company is selling a lot of pharmaceutical drugs every day, or if they're having less orders. And this is privileged information that only a hacker or someone internally would know, and I can trade based off of this information that I know. So that's kind of how hackers kind of make their money.